So to talk about document DB, we need to talk a little bit about what it means to be a document, and then what kind of DB we're going to use, and why we bother. I mean, we just finished talking about JSON, where we knew we could talk about the key value pairs and just store them as strings. But let's dive into this a little bit more deeply. So first off, let's note that when we talk about a document in the context of document DB, we are not talking about Word or a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet or a PDF. What we're talking about instead is a JSON document. In other words, a collection of those key value pairs that we talked about in the previous section. And in the absence of something like a document DB, remember there's no schema, there's no implied structure. You come as you are here, and if you're storing it in something like SQL Server in an varchar column, then you're just storing text, and it's up to the application to interpret. And that's fine, but we can go a little bit further when it comes to storage and when it comes to things like availability and that sort of thing. And that's where document DB comes into play. Right, we want to have a repository for this, and we don't necessarily want to have to roll our own and take responsibility for a number of the administrative and the maintenance sides of things. So first, let's differentiate between your classic SQL in a normalized database and then what we're talking about here with document DB. So as I move from left to right on my slide here, we're talking about a client application sending or receiving information about, say, a car. And in the case of working with classic SQL Server, classic relational data, we have to have a way of mapping the objects that we're representing in our code to the storage in the database, and that's the process of normalization. We pretty much pull that car apart into a million pieces, and we store them, in all the parts that are similar are stored in similar tables or what have you. Now, with something like document DB and this whole NoSQL movement, we have the ability to store it just the way we want, and that's sort of my bottom right here with come as you are. So how do we store this? What can we use? And that's where Azure Document DB comes into play. I won't read this slide to you, but I want to call out a couple of key points, and then I'll show you a little bit more in the demonstration. The primary thing from the perspective of the database developer is that this is a fully managed system. You send and receive JSON, and the Document DB service takes care of it. You query over JSON. You don't need to worry about supplying a schema. You'll be able to store and work with multiple documents in the same transaction. You don't have to worry about the performance other than deciding that you want a higher performing system or you don't need a higher performing system, and you can slide your performance settings and save cost. The other key concept here is that we have full replication. The latency guarantees and the service level agreement are in place for you. You don't have to build this yourself. So let's go ahead and take a look at Document DB in this demo.